For, oh, how that woman could cook her food was like grand opera sound. Why, you could give her dining room table one look, right away you gain 7 pounds. A sick man could eat himself well pretty quick. And when he got well, he ate himself sick. And her pies, without question, would cure in dyspepsia. Oh, God, how that woman could cook.
Hi everybody, and welcome back to my kitchen. We're here again today for a new episode of Gina's Good Looking Cooking, and I hope you have a sweet tooth because I sure do today. I'm going to be making blondies, chocolate chunk blondies with walnuts. This is a recipe that is not mine. Again, very few are mine. I might make some changes, but this is a Barefoot Contessa Ina Garden recipe. She is one of my favorite celebrity chefs. A lot of the recipes that I make are hers. You may have seen the roasted chicken episode that we put up. That one is her roasted chicken recipe, and very few of hers have I ever needed to make any changes with. They're perfect the way they are, simple and delicious. So the ingredients you'll need to make these blondies with chocolate chunks and walnuts are 2 sticks room temperature unsalted butter, 1 cup light brown sugar packed lightly, 1/2 cup granulated sugar, 2 teaspoons vanilla extract, 2 extra large eggs at room temperature, 2 cups all-purpose flour, 1 teaspoon baking soda, 1 teaspoon salt, 1 1/2 cups walnuts chopped coarsely, 1 1/2 bags chocolate chips or chunks. Okay, to get started, we're going to get our butter in the mixer. We'll be creaming the butter and the sugars together. We've got brown sugar and white sugar here. Just add that in. Once we get that all blended well together, we're going to add the vanilla and our 2 eggs. Then we'll slowly blend in our flour with the salt and baking soda, and then stir in the chocolate chunks and the walnuts by hand. So let's get the noisy part started. I'm going to go ahead and get an egg cracked and ready to go in. I'll be chopping up my walnuts, and we will have some blondies before long. You want to make sure your butter is room temperature. That is just easier for the sugar to cream into and everything get all incorporated nicely. Again, like always, I crack my eggs in a separate bowl. I like to chop my nuts with a knife. I like coarse chunks. I don't want super fine pieces, no nut dust. So I just run my knife through them a couple of times, and that's all that's needed. A good knife is one of the best things that you'll have in the kitchen. I definitely recommend finding an 8-9-inch long chef's knife that fits in your hand well. Keep it sharp. The less effort you have to put into running a knife through your food, the less likely you are to push it through your finger instead. My oven is preheated to 350 degrees. Nuts are all nicely chopped. This looks good. I'm just going to lower the bowl and scrape down the sides. I have a 9x13 pan that I lined with parchment paper. You know how much I love parchment paper. It makes everything so much easier. As you can see, I just cut the corners out, sprayed a little nonstick spray in the pan to stick the parchment to, and then I used my butter wrappers just to give it a quick rub with the butter wrappers to make sure nothing sticks. This also makes it super easy to get it out of the pan. Once it's done, you just take these handles, lift it right out, cut it into pieces, and you're done. You don't have to worry about scratching up your bakeware, anything like that. Again, parchment paper is such a blessing in so many different ways. You know, it makes cleanup easier. I love it. So we'll go ahead and we'll get the first egg in. Let that mix in thoroughly. And the second egg's in. And now the vanilla. Just makes everything better. All right, we've got all that blended together. I'm going to scrape down the sides one more time. Now we'll start adding in the flour, just about half and then half again. Go slow when you turn the mixer on. No flour explosions. Last half in. Now we're going to thoroughly mix this together, and then we'll hand mix in the nuts and the chocolate chunks. Spread this in the pan. It's a really thick dough. It's delicious. Everything looks blended well, so we'll go ahead and stop the mixer. Clean off the beater. Don't waste a bit of it unless you're going to be licking the big beater later, and then leave a little bit for yourself. I love cookie dough. I love batters. It's just, you know, if it tastes that good raw, you know it's going to be good once you get it cooked. So I don't mind leaving a little extra for myself. Now we've got this wonderful Blondie batter. I'm just going to get my wonderful scraper scooper here and add my nuts in. This is another thing I believe that no kitchen should be without. It just makes things so much easier. Now this is about 1.5 bags of chocolate chunks. I like the chunks in this instead of chips. I like to get those big bites of chocolate in with it. We're just going to fold all this together now. Get everything mixed in. Spread it out in this pan. It's going to bake for about 30 minutes. You'll want to test it in the center with a toothpick. It's okay if the toothpick comes out with melted chocolate on it. You just don't want it to have any dough. You want to be careful not to overcook these by any means. Just, you know, keep a toothpick handy and start checking on them. I would actually probably set my timer for about 25 minutes and then start watching it closely from that point on. So now we're going to get our parchment lined pan up here. And again, parchment paper has saved me from so many disasters. I don't hesitate to use it one bit. So now we're just going to spread all this out evenly in the pan, pop it in the oven. Like I said, I'm going to set my timer for about 25 minutes, start checking on it, and we will have Blondies for later. All right, in the oven. We've got about 15 seconds left on the timer. This is wound up cooking for about 40 minutes total, which is why I said start checking it, test it with a toothpick in several different places. There we go, 40 minutes. And it is, I think, going to be perfect. We're going to take one more toothpick, test it right in the center. And again, it's okay to see melted chocolate. You just don't want to see any globs of raw dough. This is perfect. We'll turn the oven off and pull this out. It smells so good, you would not believe. You can see that the butter in the crust is giving it this wonderful dark golden brown. The big coarse chopped nuts, you can see the pieces, the chunks of ooey gooey melted chocolate. So now we're just going to let this sit over here on a cooling rack for about 15 minutes. We'll come back, we'll take it by our parchment paper handles that we left, lift it straight out onto the board. I'm going to cut this in half. I'm going to wrap one half of it totally when it's cool and freeze it for snacks for another day. The other half I'm going to cut, and Mike and I are both having a sweet tooth, and I have a feeling we've got dessert coming tonight for dinner. We'll be back shortly. Well, the timer just went off, 15 minutes sitting here cooling on the rack. We're going to just lift it by its handles and put it over here on the board so that we can cut it. That way we're not scarring our pans. So see how easy that was? I'm telling you, if you don't use it, try it. Parchment paper will become your absolute best friend in the kitchen. We're done with this pan now. I'm going to cut this in half. Again, I'm going to be saving half of this. I'm going to wrap it whole once it's cooled completely and put it in the freezer for another day. And this half tonight I'm going to go ahead and cut. Mike and I will have a snack. Probably the majority of them will get wrapped and frozen, but it's going to be yummy no matter what. So now I've got it in half. I'm just going to halves again. Again, this is very rich. You're not going to want a huge wedge of this. just a nice bite. So I've cut the halves in half and then in halves again. So we've got that in 4s. I'll do the same thing across. So we've just got an ooey, gooey, nut-filled, delicious little bite. Cut it in half and then cut the halves in half. These freeze beautifully. Wrap them. I like to wrap things individually. Frost burn and unpleasant odors pass into our food through the air, so that if you can make it airtight, then you have less likelihood of your food not lasting long in your freezer. And the way that I do that is I individually wrap each thing. Another thing that I use a lot in my kitchen is plastic wrap. But I'll take the time and I will individually wrap these, and I'll freeze them flat on a baking sheet. And then I will, once they're frozen, go ahead and put them in a Ziploc, a gallon container that, you know, can hold a quantity and take up a lot less space. So as long as you're preventing the air from coming in contact to your food, it will stay fresh a lot longer in your freezer, which is how I'm able to take advantage. You know, I was just in the mood to cook today. And who wants to make a half a batch of anything, right? That just seems wrong, at least in my kitchen. Anyway, here's our finished project. We've got a beautiful plate of walnut chocolate chunk blondies. There's not much I love more than chocolate, and brownies are normally what I pull out of the pantry when I just want something. But like I tell my granddaughter, I love her more than chocolate. I think I actually love blondies more than brownies. I hope that you give them a try, and we'll see you for another episode of Gina's Good Looking Cooking.
Oh, how that woman could cook her food was like grand opera sound. Why, you could give her dining room table one look, right away you gain 7 pounds. A sick man could eat himself well pretty quick, and when he got well, he ate himself sick, and her pies without question. Put pure in deception. Oh, God, how that woman could cook.